Welcome to Ask a Placer. Hi, I'm Anne Marie, or Impulse. I'm with JOBI, Coffee, Tea, or Me. So welcome to Ask a Placer. Housekeeping real quick. Bathrooms across the way. We finally found the upstairs bathrooms. We're going to go through a few things up front and have them give introductions, answer a couple things up here, and then we'll open it to the crowd. And we'll try and make sure we keep it moving, and we know we're coming up against lunch, so we'll definitely end on time. I know a lot of people are trying to split their times and hit more than one thing if possible. If you're doing that, just if you can kind of make it unobtrusive. Otherwise, we're going to get going. So thank you for coming and for offering us your brains and your perspectives, letting us kind of mine them a little bit. If you would give us a little intro on you, kind of your name, your sector, how many years you've been doing it, and we'll get started with that.
Hi everyone, my name is Black Beauty. Boss is here.
Come on up. All right, grab a seat.
Anyways, Black Beauty. This is my third year on the placement team. Past 2 years I've been with the 430 sector, and I've not announced yet our current sector assignments, but that will be very soon. And let's see, what were some of the other questions?
How many years have you been burning?
Yeah, burning. Coming up on my 9th year, which is very exciting. Previously, it was running a theme camp, so I came to placement with a lot of that experience, which I think was very useful. So, yeah, love what we do here.
I'm Hep Kitten, and this will be my 15th year on placement, and my 15th year going to Burning Man, too, because I kind of took a year off to get knee surgery a couple years ago, and still worked placement, so now it's 15 and 15. I've been with the theme camp since the very beginning, since my very first year. A friend's camp that I tried to run a theme camp one year, that was a disaster. It's too hard to do that and this together, so I give mad props to all of you. And I have done pretty much all the sectors except for 9, 10, and 2.
Hi everyone, I'm Machine. My virgin year was 2004. I came out with an art project called L2K, which is the 300-foot ring around the man. That year we did everything from digging the trench to filling the holes to getting volunteers. I've been involved in placement since 2005. I now am the on playa lead for the flagging team that actually puts 17,000 blue flags in the ground every year to delineate some of the barriers or the space between. And I have been, as with HEP, I have not been 730 or 9 or 2 and 10, but I have been involved in the rest of the sectors. This year, I do know my assignment because it hasn't changed.
Hey, I'm Bravo. I am a placer, and I've been coming to Burning Man since 2003. Been doing a theme camp since 2005 with my brother. We started one and did that. Started placing in 2011, 2012, something like that. Wanted something more to do than just the theme camp stuff. I've placed 3 o'clock, 4:30, and 7:30, so I've seen a lot of the different camps and perspectives around, and glad to be here to answer questions today.
Hey, I thought I wasn't going to sit up here, but I am. I'm only going to be here for 10 minutes, but I'm Level. I have burned since 2009, and I've always camped at a camp called Dilated Peoples, which is generally in the 730 sector. I've been on the placement team since 2014, so this would have been my 6th year as a placer, but rather than just be a placer, I'm now the placement manager. I've placed in 430 the entire time I've been a placer, but have obviously gallivanted all around the city.
Well, I know JOBI is in the 9 o'clock sector, and Papa Bear has been our placer along with Ball Knob and now Monday. And we all love our placers. We know you guys work stupid hard for us, doing ridiculous things in harsh conditions. Since we've only got level for a few minutes, let's start with you. You're changing jobs. Is there anything that you could use from TCOs or that you would like us to know?
I don't know that I have anything extra special as the manager. I think a lot of times people have anxiety about placement, and I like to give this statistic to people that we have close to 1,500 camps that apply, and I think we only deny anywhere from 50 to 70 of them, and so by and large, the odds are in your favor to be placed. That said, we always look for interactivity, and I think you've been hearing that word probably like a billion times this weekend. And we were looking for creativity, and I think even for my camp, I'm a member of a theme camp. I always try to encourage them to think, hey, we did it great last year. Like, what could we tweak? What could we improve? Or we have half the people that were planning to come as we did last year. What do we modify to and still make it an awesome experience? And so I know most of you probably are thinking that way, but I just hope that people don't think you have to like throw everything you know outside the window and start from scratch to make things look shiny and new for us, because we like the tried and true, but we also like additional things to let us know that you're not just getting stale and resting on your laurels. But being on the team has been great. I think we all have a very standard process, and we discuss many things, and we notice when people try to game us and game the system. So just work with us and communicate with us, and I think we'll be here to help support you all.
Great.
I guess same question, right?
Yeah.
Two things. One, don't get caught up in trying to give what the placement team wants. Remember, you're bringing a gift to Burning Man, and it might be something you're passionate about, something your group is passionate about. Remember that, and when you're filling out your questionnaires, make sure you're doing what you want to do, not what you think we want. That's a key thing. Make sure. I've talked to too many people that are like, I don't know what you want, I'm trying to get what you want. Well, don't try to give me what I want or what we want as a placement team. Tell us what you really want to bring to the plan. The other thing is get your questionnaires in early. If you want to have conversations with us, if you do have concerns about, am I doing this right? I want to do this thing and I want to get your feedback on it. The earlier you get your questionnaire in, the easier it is for us to have that conversation with you. So if you're ready and you know what you want, don't wait. Don't wait till the end. Do it now, and then we can talk to you if you need that conversation.
Yeah, and I'd like to echo bravo. The things that you, thank you. The things that you're going to bring are the things you're going to bring. You're not out to impress the neighbors. You're not out to impress us. What you bring is what you bring. So tell us concisely and directly what you're going to bring and why you're going to bring it. But we need that communication to get that to you. And no, you can't have an extra 20 feet.
Continuing on the same vein, since we seem to be like on a roll here, I would say that when you fill out your questionnaire, if you're funny, be funny. If we have good sense of humor, some of us have very dark senses of humor. Be yourself. Show your personality in your questionnaire. Don't think that we're trying to read a thesis. Remember that we're a very small team that reads those 1,500 questionnaires. So when somebody's actually giving us a little bit more than the dry, it is a nice change for us. Show yourself. Make sure that, grammar doesn't really count, but it does when you're reading 1,400 and everybody's giving us all the information. Try your best to pay attention to how paragraphs, sentences, all the rest of it. It just makes things easier to read. And I know it sounds like a stupid thing to say, but when you read so many of these things and people are not paying attention to that thing, because we know it's a really long questionnaire, we know that it's really hard to fill out, it's important information, so just take your time, do it right, and do it early. Yeah,
I also would like to echo some of the comments that we've mentioned one thing in particular, just get it in early, do it early, and reach out to us, send us an email if you have questions. Now is the time when we can help and respond. I think Hep said yesterday, it's like the last week before the PCQ closes, we get 75% of...
And 50% of those is probably the very last day.
Yeah, so that is not the time to be asking us questions about, where your dome should go or something like that, so reach out to us early.
Okay, so most of us are bringing something we're passionate about, something we think we can be good at. What are the ways we can fuck up that impact you guys? Is there anything we should truly avoid out there?
On play or?
Yeah, out there. I mean, the obvious one is not doing our thing.
Yeah.
Show up before you're supposed to, when you're supposed to show up, or at least before the last day. Don't think that you can show up, take your space, and then leave. We notice it. We're not oblivious to that kind of stuff. Don't try and move the flags. Don't try and take more space. Don't try and all that stuff is a big way that you can fuck up. If you're moving flags, you're going to piss every single placer off, and do you really want to do that?
Mostly Machine.
No, that pisses me off too.
But if Machine shows up at your place, you've done something wrong.
Yeah, he's
everyone knows. Everyone knows if Machine shows up, oh shit.
Yeah. He's a flagger manager who actually does all these things. So when you move things, he's like, no, that's not how it was. He knows. Yeah.
I would say be okay with the fact that we told you approximately 50 feet and it turned out to be 48 or 51 because the playa is not a linear thing. And yeah, it's anyway, so just be comfortable with being able to squish a little bit or breathe a little bit.
Burning Man math.
Because it's Burning Man math. It's a very complicated science.
Another way to fuck up is to be mean to your neighbors. Do not be mean to your neighbors. We're all in it together to create interactivity. Everybody else has the same needs as you. So be aware of that and be nice.
By not doing it right is being inclusive. Every one of your neighbors wants to know who you are. They really do want to know what's going on around them, and they are your best resource. They are the ones that are going to say, "Oh, have you seen? Do you know what those guys are doing?" Or, "Hey, I talked to them. They're really great." So that's the thing. Include the neighbors. You can build a neighborhood of all your new best friends that you've never met before.
I was going to say the same thing Bravo said. Just talk to your neighbors, plan with them. If you need to build a fire road, share that space. Just work with them.
And it's true. We love our neighborhood, and some of my best friends come from there. And because we're all over the world, I only see them once a year, but I see them because you guys have put together these neighborhoods that work for us. All right. We're going to open it up to questions. We are recording, so if you don't want to be recorded, don't speak. We're going to try and make it loud, and we'll pass this back and forth probably a little bit up here as needed. Or actually, it may just be easier. I may just hold it out here. We'll have everybody out there and hope that we can get the best we can. All right.
Take one for level before he leaves.
Okay. If we're trying to get him.
Just because the position you hold, is it possible to maybe get, this is really Dane in particular, but the Instagram to start posting stuff about theme camps instead of just individuals walking around doing their fancy pants crap. To get into some grimy little bars like eggs or something and talk about
the Burning Man's accounts Instagram?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I think
putting the theme camps more in the facade of what the media and randoms see.
Yeah, the short answer is yes. I just started 2 days ago, so.
Get on it.
But I know that even last year, Yeah, and I think the camp development and support team also want to feature individual theme camps to say, yeah, this is Burning Man. We are Burning Man. So, short answer, yes, and then follow up with me about exactly when and how later.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Go ahead
thank
now.
you.
All right, Jeremy, you had a question.
Yeah. So let's see. So interactivity. So I know, like you all said, like do what you want, do what you like. Don't try to do what you all want. So tangibly though. So like my camp, our last year was first year. We had to file an appeal to get placed. We got placed. It was great, but it caused some stress, and so we have a lot of ideas of what we could do for interactivity. And I'm really curious what interactivity means to you. And for example, there's like the interactivity where we are hosting something or doing something interactive with people. That's definitely in our plans. But there's also things that like passive interactivity, things that are there that people can interact with, but maybe we don't have someone there at the time. And then we're an adventure explorer camp, and so there's ideas about choose your own adventure, and you come and you find something else to do in Burning Man. And there's been a lot of discussion in camp about that. And we're like, but that's not interactivity, because that's sending people away from your camp. Curious if you all have thoughts on what interactivity means to you, what you'd like to see.
All of the above.
Okay. And for you include all
quite
of
honestly,
those
all
in
of the
application.
above. Tell us everything that you're doing.
Okay.
Tell us everything. When we're looking to map camps,
Yeah.
mostly what we're looking at is what you're doing within the boundaries of your camp. So that cool, but we've also started discussing, because we realize like those send you on your adventure kind of things are so Burning Man. It's like the Burning Man experience that you can't get anywhere else. But it also means that people may be away from your camp, and your camp might be a black zone. So we're starting to discuss as a team how to deal with those things better, because we do want to count it, because it is something that is quintessentially Burning Man, that without it, the event is less. You get all the Instagram whatever people instead of like, so we love it, but we don't have a concrete way to deal with it right now. When we're looking at things, what we are normally looking at is like, what exactly are you doing within your camp? So it's the passive stuff counts and the active stuff counts. We want to know about it all. We want to know about the stuff that's like we're hanging out and whatever, and like people stop by and then we have this great conversation. It's not a thing. It's not an event, but it's important.
Yeah. Great.
So we want to know all about all that stuff.
Yeah, and to add on to that, for example, the going out and coming back. If you're, everybody's gathering at the Man to go start and do something, that's awesome, but it's not in your camp. Right. There's a camp in 430, Dr. Carl's, I think, that does a scavenger hunt.
Yeah.
So they send people out everywhere, but they have a spot in their camp that people come to, and that is interactivity within their camp, which absolutely counts, because they're bringing people in, they're having these conversations, and starting out the adventure out. So that is definitely, that's something that counts towards your thing.
Awesome.
Another thing around interactivity is, I always use the example of, everyone in your camp should be doing 2 things of interactivity.
Okay.
That's not a literal. People are like, I have people that volunteer 80 hours a week, how can they do that? It's use that as a perspective thing. If everybody was doing, because everyone in your camp should be involved in your activity, right? If everybody's doing that, what's that look like, right? And as you're putting together your interactivity, what does that look like? Would that really equal out to everybody doing stuff? Because we want to make sure that everybody in your camp is participating and involved, right? Not just camping along with you because they like you guys and they're going to go do something else and not really help you with anything, right? Everybody should be engaged in your camp. So remember that as you're building your
Awesome. Yeah.
I want to.
And then,
Go ahead.
if you are going to that passive route, make that inviting
Absolutely.
and open,
Yeah.
and let people know
Obvious.
through a dry erase board, through a big arrow, through something,
Lights.
so that they're, and then let us know that there will be passive times. We're not going to be interactive all the time. My camp is almost 100% passive. I just put lights on the ground and let people do it. It's a big swirl, so it works both day and night. It's lit at night, but it's still that nice little swirl during the day. And I do nothing except when I'm there. And we don't have as much time as we'd like for a theme camp. So just make it inviting. Put some lights out, put some flags, do something.
All right.
Maybe like a camp of what, 2 people, 3 people?
Okay.
And you're still doing a thing.
I was going to add one quick thing.
Yeah.
So for me, interactivity is participation. Participation from the citizens of Black Rock City, but also participation of your campmates.
Right.
And so it can be passive, it can be interactive, but make sure that people are participating. That's the end goal. Yeah.
All right. Do you want your hand?
Yeah, so little perspective from where I'm at. We have been, I've been burning since 2002, and we have been doing sound systems at Burning Man for 13 years for other camps. And we've always been the support structure for camps like Opulent Temple. We do their sound system. Well, now there's an opportunity this year for us to come back and take on the role of hosting the camp. So a lot of times when I've been hearing the topic of interactivity in context to what happens in your camp, we do have other things besides dancing planned. There's some things that have just kind of come up naturally, some musicians that want to teach a clinic or whatnot. But us bringing out the sound system and hosting the camp, a lot of the activities that we'll have for the people inside of our camp are putting the lights up, making sure all the production equipment's together, the 10 people it'll take a night to keep all the bikes out of the road, to make sure that the camp is run properly, that the camp is well managed. And so I'm just kind of curious, there's just like what my perspective, all that counts is those people creating the opportunity for interactivity on our dance floor. So anyway, there's kind of and then a secondary question, this isn't too much, is us being a first year camp in this format, so we've done all these other roles over the years. I guess part of the process for us being that we're a new camp, so we wouldn't be qualified for the directed group sales that happened the first time. I think our general idea is we just proceed forward 100% with our plans, start building, making everything happen, getting everything lined up as it would be placed. But any advice on that process as well would be handy.
Yeah, I think your first question was like what?
The predominant role of the people in our camp, we'll have some workshops and whatnot that take place where people in our camp are directly interacting with people coming in, say in our shade structure. But the majority of the people in our camp, their role will be to support the sound system, the lighting, making sure that everything happens within the night.
Are you asking if that's okay?
That to me, that counts as that's their predominant.
It counts.
That's their predominant.
Totally.
Sorry, I just didn't catch a question. It sounded like a statement. I'm like,
yeah. What's
the question? I'm
well,
like, okay.
Some of the way I hear some of these things phrased along the time, it would almost seem like, well, if you're not directly one-on-one interacting with the public, but there's it takes a lot of people to run the sound system.
Yeah, you also got to remember that you think of scale.
Yeah.
We're talking one-on-one interaction, it's really important, but when you're talking about a large-scale sound camp, it's really a different animal than most other theme camps because of all the things that you're talking about. So the things that you're talking about for participation for your camp members are exactly what you're talking about. And we're not interactivity police that we're going to be like, that person didn't talk to somebody. Like you're putting on this huge thing, whatever it takes for you to put that on with your people doing that work counts as whatever you're producing for your interactivity.
Awesome.
And also look at, depending on where you want to go, we put out new details about what's required. If you want to be on Esplanade, this is kind of what we're looking for. If you want to be in an avenue or street, look at those things and see what you really want to provide. And are you going to be on all the time? Do you have the ability to do that? So look at those and make sure it's clear what you can actually expect your camp to do and that you're going in the right spot.
And as for the ticket thing, you basically, what you should do is, because DGS is always for like a reward for what you've done the year before, so proceed like you put your questionnaire in early, like we've said, because you're a first year camp. If we see anything that seems off or weird, we have the time right now and the bandwidth, because we work full time, we're all volunteers, none of us get paid. So we're doing it on our weekends and our nights after we do a full day's work. So when we get all those questionnaires at the very, very end, that means that our time that we can spend on each questionnaire goes from this much time to this much time, because because we've moved up timelines, we have like 2 weeks to review 1,400 questionnaires, and we're 18 people. So outside of our paying jobs, I mean, it might be 2.5 weeks now. So if you're putting it in that last week, the chances that you were going to look at something and be like, you know, wait, we need to talk to this person, or get smaller as it gets closer to the end. So put your questionnaire in now. If you have changes, you can always email us the changes, but then we have the time and the bandwidth to look at it and talk to you about it. Put feelers out on all you're all burners. You've all been doing it for years. So at the moment, what you're going to want to do is put feelers out if you don't get all the tickets you need to all the people that you know, like all the different theme camps, all the different organizations, and just say, hey, we're looking for tickets. Most of the time, the tickets show up. It might not be till July, but the tickets will show up. Just have faith that that will happen. And if you're running into a problem in June-ish or whatever, that you still email us. And sometimes there's things that we can do, not always, but sometimes. So you just kind of have to proceed as if.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're 100%. We're making the plans, spending the money, making the weekend plans. It's all going to happen. Yeah, it's 100% in our head. It's going to happen. So.
And good luck.
Yes, thank you.
And I'd like to add to that also. Once the PCQ goes out and you've got it all together, remind us of what you've been involved in.
Yeah.
Because a first-year camp that's doing all this is going to be a red flag.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we're coming 13 years in on the plan. We've done.
So just in that PCQ, make sure there's something that reminds us. Oh, by the way, we're a first-year camp, but we come from this.
Yes.
And then tell us where you come from, and concisely say this is going to happen.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, in the back.
Hi, I'm Uncle Awesome with Camp Corning, 430D. And I just had a question. What is going to be changing for the requirements for being placed on an avenue this year, and if there are?
To be clear, I don't think anything's changed. We put out the criteria that we actually put on the website is something that's been in place for a really long time, but it just hasn't been out there.
Okay.
So it's not. It's new to. It's new so that people have more clarity of what we look for, but it's always what we've been looking for. So it's not something new per se. It's just we're trying to make things more clear to all of you, because we know that our whole process is like a big mystery. And we're trying to make the things that will help you produce a theme camp and get the placement that you want more obvious. So that was what that was about.
Okay.
But it's not necessarily new.
All right.
And keep in mind that all those things that we put out, it's all to scale. So, we say we want this. This is what we look for a camp on an avenue. If you're a 5-person camp, we're going to expect less of that camp than of a 100-person camp, because interactivity should always scale with how big your camp is.
Okay.
Right?
I know last year there were a couple things about moving camps around, and it caused some discord, some distress. But it's not a punishment so much as balance. So can you maybe address that just a little bit on how you look at some of these balances?
Yeah, I think for me especially, it was coming from the perspective of this is a city that we create new from scratch every single year, and there should be no expectation that you'll be in the same place ever, really. And so from that perspective, I think it only makes sense that we might try to shake things up, put camps in different places, and we do. Most camps, in fact, are in different places every year. And the other side of it maybe is that we want to provide or facilitate an experience that's new for all of you. So I guess, walking down the Esplanade on the 430 side might be different next year, and that'll be really exciting and new and fun. And so we kind of wanted that to be the experience that all of you have.
I think one of the most fun things that happens at Burning Man is the unexpected. And if you know exactly where your friend's camp is going to be because it's been around the same area, you bypass all the fun things on the way to getting to your friend's camp because you really are just trying to find your friend. Whereas if you don't know exactly where that friend's camp is because it's moved or something, you might have the best experiences of Burning Man. Oh, look at that camp, look at that camp, look at that camp. And that's kind of what we want all burners get distracted by shiny things. We want you to get distracted by shiny and then end up somewhere different and new and fun.
Just a comment to the unexpected. I appreciate the surprise a lot. It would help a lot if you would know if you have one frontage or two frontages or three frontages. I said that before because it just takes so much material and decorations too.
Yeah, this came up. You brought this question up in the cultural direction setting commentary thing just before that. And yeah, there's things that we do. If you have a backside, now we're trying to email those camps and let you know, hey, you have back frontage. You should try to do something with this. If you have lots of side frontage, we're trying to do it better now. But we don't have a mechanism to tell you right away, hey, this is where you are. Here's how many sides of frontage. And it's actually a good idea, and I think it's something that we as a placement team should talk about because there's no reason why we can't tell you that. It's not giving away your location. And if it's of value to the theme camps to know that right off the bat versus having to query you later, it's something that we need to look into.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I want to add to that. So I'm Julia from the Salties. We found out we were going to be partially on the Esplanade. And then when we showed up, we're like, wow, we're on 9 and Esplanade, like on that corner and with a lot more frontage. You know, on the Esplanade. So now all of a sudden, like, how do we actually make it more, like, this big space and we have to work with it. So it would, because we thought we had this little tiny space that was big, so it would be nice to give us more information on just how much we have if we're on the Esplanade, because it did cause some anxiety for us, like, because we're usually on 9, like, around G or, you know, F or whatever, but now on the Esplanade, we're like, well, you know, what, there's a whole different set of problems, more mood, etc. So, you know, we were just, yeah.
Well, we had that a little bit last year. We showed up and we had 3 frontages, and we didn't do it as well as we thought we could have. And we want to do it as well as we can.
That's our community. You can always, you can always email placement after you get your address and ask those questions.
Yeah, we
but
could
it
have
is a
done
good
that
thing
more.
for us to take back because there isn't any reason why we can't get that information.
Maybe like a little bit more support if you're on the Esplanade, like with some tips, you know.
Does everyone know how to read the addresses too?
Thanks.
Does everyone know how the addresses when we say this street first and then this street, like that, what that means?
Explain.
Okay, so
I think we do, but yeah.
So let's just say if you are on D and 415, that means that your frontage is D, and your approximate location on that street is 415. Let's say you are, I don't know, what's another example? If you're 730 and J, so your frontage is 730, and then on the corner J. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for clarifying.
So
you had something?
That would be a situation where you would have 2 frontages.
Potentially 3.
Depending on how big, depending on your size.
Just one question about the changes coming through. I have a theme camp. My name's Boy Scout. I'm from the Aqua Zone. We have a mobile water station and a theme camp and a bunch of other things that go on. How has the mutant vehicle placement and the art support placement and the work support placement impacted you guys in trying to build this city?
All the support placements.
I don't. Are you talking in? Sorry. Like I'm hearing this and like we've always, or we have for years and years and years at this point, placed art support, work support, and mutant vehicle support. So that hasn't really changed for us at all.
Okay.
It's all been, I mean, the biggest change this year is with mutant vehicles and art support. We're starting to do a little bit more of a coordination with other departments of, like, this is your size, this is a reasonable space for your mutant vehicle, or art support to this is a reasonable amount of space that you need, so they're not getting a bunch of like their besties in there who aren't actually doing the work. So we're starting to look at that kind of thing, and that's new, but that isn't something that a theme camp would generally. That's something that would be a direct conversation between the artery and the art support camp, or the DMV and the mutant vehicle support camp or whatever, it wouldn't be kind of a theme camp thing?
Yeah, well, my concern is because I'm a hybrid camp, and last year we formed an impromptu village with 2 art support camps, the Sonic Runway and the Kylo Pod. So it was great, and it was terrible, and I'll never be a mayor again.
Lessons learned.
But so trying to get the restrictions for a theme camp but also we have.
I thought that was your question.
Coordinate with, we have a mutant vehicle too, so we have to.
So
we haven't fully.
We haven't.
We need to have that discussion because those are very
it's something
unique
that actually
situations.
came up yesterday that like a village that, because we have always kind of defined a village as village with mostly theme camps, right? But there's villages that have art support camps and mutant vehicles and so it's one theme camp and then a bunch of support camps. And that's kind of a different animal that we haven't figured out how to deal with yet. So if that's you again, you said you're not doing it, but if that's you again or any of you, if that's your thing, that you're like your theme camp and then you've got like art support, just email us, placement@burningman.org, and say this is what we want to do and we haven't figured that out. It's a discussion we on the placement team have to get an answer, and we don't have one for it yet, but we know it's something we have to figure out.
And one of the challenges with that is that if an art piece is coming to Burning Man and they have a bunch of people, they register as an art support camp. So their art gets registered and we get an approval from the artery that, yes, we're okay to place them as an art support camp. Same with mutant vehicles. They register as a mutant vehicle, they get approved, they tell us, yes, it's okay to place this. If they don't, we don't place a mutant vehicle camp. If you have a theme camp and you have art support, well, you might have 3 people that are helping the art support team. You might have a mutant vehicle that maybe didn't get approved. So right now, we don't have a very good mechanism of really tracking that stuff into the theme camp. So those are the challenges around what we're facing.
Yeah, and part of that challenge that he didn't actually bring up about that is that if you're an art support camp or a work support camp or a mutant vehicle support camp, you're getting your WAPs from those departments and not from us. So the theme camp gets WAPs from us, but those other people are supposed to be getting their WAPs from other departments, which makes the whole thing much more complicated, which is why we don't have a process. We're just starting to figure it out.
Watch out for the double dipping.
It's a whole thing. But if it's you, basically, just email us and we can work it out on an individual basis because it's not a super standard thing.
Way to break ground, Boy Scout. And over here.
Hi, I'm Jediah, Rancho Sparkle Pony Village. I guess, what were there, 9 villages last year? Or there were way more than that? Way more. Okay. So last year we were forced to become a village, I guess, because we took on an art support camp. They asked us to get their back. We do support a couple of vehicles, and we've been approached by another art support. We're a camp looking for art support or for us to house them or whatever. So we're assuming already that we're into the village thing again, which is fine. And I think what we were told last time is just that just keep repeating in your different applications and everything. Like what the intention is, hey, we need to be with Rancho Sparkle Pony. Like we're an art support camp, and so the village model worked well for us, and we're actually going to encourage some of our smaller projects to. I hope this is okay with you guys, but some of our smaller projects to go ahead and apply as a camp within our village, because it's going to free Rancho back up to have our brand and own it again, and then that'll showcase those guys within the village.
That's actually a good point. That is something new this year that we're requesting that all camps and villages actually fill out a questionnaire. It's a much abbreviated questionnaire, but it gives us more information. So when we're looking at a village, we actually have all the information from the different. This year we're requesting it. Next year we're requiring it. So, and it's always a good thing because then if those camps break off and decide to do their own thing, we actually have a history from that camp and know that it's not like coming out of the blue because we have camp and village questionnaires. So we have information.
I have 2 follow-ups, but we're going to keep talking about this subject. Let's stay on it.
Well, do we have
No. I'm going to go home and try to do the thing tonight. It would be really cool if there was, I missed yesterday because, things happen, but the DGS, if there was a larger timeline to sort of get your tickets, tell your people, line them up 2 days on a weekend with a bunch of people that work in production and wait on checks and all that other stuff. We did pretty well at landing most of them, but there's some critical people that didn't. So I'm gonna try to do the application tonight. Last one would be what would you consider a hole in the playa?
A hole?
Yeah.
Like a service hole or
a hole in the playa? Like when you're asking in the questionnaire, you can't be putting holes in the playa. What's
post holes.
Post holes.
Yeah.
Post holes like
trenching.
A foot,
like if you're augering out.
A 6 inch or bigger.
6 inch.
You're augering something out.
More than 6 inches?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know that I mean it, Okay. You using an auger or a post hole digger to dig it, it's a hole in the playa. You're pounding in a piece of rebar, it's, you can fill that in with your foot.
So anything
like if you're removing
if you're removing material.
If you're removing dirt and like saving it so that you can put it back in, that's a hole in the playa.
Okay, we had another question on the group sale.
Yeah, he brought up a very good point. Is there anything really important for keeping that group sale purchase window, to only 48 hours? Is that 48 hours like long for the group sale window, or can we make it a week? I don't see if there's much problem with that.
We on placement we're not ticketing.
I know.
I know you're saying this, but and I think it's a valid concern, but it's not something that's something that our placement manager deals with, and we don't deal with the logistics of it, so that's not a question we've ever been asked, from as a team, how long should it be, or we don't have input on that, or we never have been asked.
We have a bunch of producers on our camp too, so we're frequently working Friday.
Right.
Saturday,
No,
Sunday,
I totally get that, and I think
we can't
exactly.
answer.
Yeah, it's not.
Send us an email at placement app.
So it's not for you guys.
It's not our purview.
But who's the best person to
You
contact?
could do ticketing at BurningMan.org.
I would email placement at BurningMan.org and our placement manager level.
Or level, sorry.
And you should do it through placement app, because then it can be directed to the right place. And you should definitely email and say this is a problem that we have. Is there a way to do it? I think it's a very valid concern. It's not something we can answer because it's not in our purview.
And if you use placement app, then all of us get to see it.
Yes.
So if you're going, you call Papa Bear, or you decide to call Machine, or you do that. See, then the rest of us can't see what's going on. So please, placement app, I get to see it.
All of us.
Bravo level, everybody gets to see it, and then we can say, whoa, I've done that, so here we go, instead of just one. We're actually the only volunteer team that is year-round volunteer, but we actually do everything together. We do all the placement on the weekends, so we're all in the same place. They lock us in a room, and we do all that together. So
nobody does.
They shut off the air conditioning.
No food, no drink until you're done.
And to be specific, they put us in Thunderdome.
Yeah.
That's the name of the conference room. So we're in Thunderdome.
Just the point is, use placement app, because some of us have dealt with that.
Okay. So call your place or touch base with them on something specific to your spot. If it's something that's a bigger problem,
always placement app.
Always placement app. Okay, so always placement app.
Subject line is
you can say
in the subject line,
6 o'clock sector or Papa Bear or whatever.
Okay, so always placement app.
Or in the subject line, your theme camp.
Yeah, you want to call Papa Bear up and ask him out for a good beer? That's awesome. But if you want to talk placement, do it through placement app. Yeah.
Who places the machine for your theme camp?
The machine does.
Okay.
Well, you see, one of the rewards for doing something is being placed.
Okay.
So if you're doing something, you're getting placed, right? So I do my theme camp, and usually my lead, whoever that happens to be, because I wear too many hats to actually lead this. So my lead I'll say I would like this. And like last year, they went all the way through and went, the only place we have is right next to the portals, right? And I went, well, shit, what I want is traffic. Oh, well, shit, there we go.
You covered it right there.
Want traffic, so they said, well, great, then why don't you take this one? It's usually the process, but I get placed just like you guys.
Yeah, totally. Right, that's right.
All right, D1?
One quick question. So I know in the part it says put pictures of what you've done before. Us setting up sound systems for Opulent Temple is a picture of the sound system that we've set up for another camp applicable to the application as to what we're
And now that you've brought up pictures, another thing.
Good segue.
Yeah, good segue. When we ask for pictures, we love pictures, but when you're putting it in on your questionnaire, what we're looking for is your frontage. We love seeing all your smiling faces. It's awesome, but that does not inform us more about your camp. We'd love to see the picture of your frontage maybe day and night.
Yeah.
And so that we can actually see, so when you're describing something, a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? We look at a picture and go, oh, that's what they mean. Like, or that's what it looks like at night. I know I can put them somewhere and it's not going to be a dark hole because they actually light up their space. So, yeah, I mean, we love seeing you guys, but we'd really rather see your camp.
How, on that, if we're changing things, if we're updating every year, do you want our previous year's camp or what we're anticipating this year, kind of a
both
mock-up?
Yeah. The previous year is good because we have your record from last year, so. Yeah.
And we have camps send in like a visualization, a sketch up of what they want to do this year, right? Something that allows us to kind of get an idea of what you're going to do. So both are good.
Yeah, and if you want to submit more than, I think, the 2 or 3 pictures that are allowed on the questionnaire, you just email them to placement @ and we can attach them to your questionnaire. Yep. And so, like, which is useful if you have like this is our frontage with nothing, and this is like at one of our events. If you wanted it to show us what it looks like when you're. Those things are really, really useful when we're going through this process, and we really appreciate it.
Great. Adorable?
Just a very technical question. I'm having a Newton vehicle camp this year, Newton vehicle support camp. Is there a size difference for the streets? Like, is there something that would need to say the 15 streets are smaller or tighter?
Most of the streets are 40 feet wide.
I think they're all the same.
They're
all except L. L is 50. The rest of them are all 40.
Give us the dimensions of the Newton vehicle in your questionnaire, and we'll be able to
and if
accommodate.
If you need space to like turn around in your camp or whatever, because I know some of them you can't back them up really easily. That kind of information is really important because you draw it on your map, right?
Yeah.
But also tell us in your questionnaire like this does not like back up. We have to drive through camp to do it, or whatever the specifics are for your main vehicle. Because if you don't tell us that, we're like, you're asking for all this extra space, and we don't know why. And if you don't tell us, we might say like, you don't actually need this space, and be like, and then you're screwed.
Yeah.
So let us know.
Give you good reasoning on
Yes.
the logic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Second question, just to that. We have Frozen Oasis is our sister camp, but I don't really want to be next to them because of because we're not so interactive. It's the first year our car we're gonna repair that thing from Monday to Saturday, so. I don't want to be in the middle of the street. Is it possible to just say we want to be in the same sector?
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah, you can always just say these are our friends, and we'd like to be next to them, like near them.
Yeah.
We'd like to be in the same sector of them as possible.
There's a
that
common section.
That actually makes our lives a lot easier when you're asking to be near and not next to.
All right, Cuddle?
You're starting to get to my question, which is I'm trying to I'm a first year camp. My name is Misha. I'm with the Bonobos, and I'm trying to figure out if we should ask a large, very established camp if we can be part of their village, or if we should just have us both request being near each other, and if that would actually work.
Is it for sharing resources? Or?
Yeah, I would like us to become their workshop space. It's the Orgy Dome, and so their workshop space doesn't work for how they run their space. And if we can become their workshop space, then they don't have to deal with all of that. And then we would, on top of it, become add more workshops and consent culture and all of that. And so if we could become, although I don't necessarily want to be part of their village, I would like us to stay independent, I guess, is the ideal. Will that work if we request to be near them?
If you're both requesting to be near each other, next to each other, that means a lot more than if, like you're saying, we joke around and call them stalker camps.
It's happened.
Because it's like, you had a good experience next to a certain camp or whatever, and you want to be next to them, but the other camp doesn't really know who you are or whatever. Like, it's not a resource. If you're sharing resources,
Yeah.
it's important to say that. It's important for both camps to mention it. Good to know for, first of all, actually, I also want to say good luck on new theme camp. But one thing that's really important, whatever workshops that Orgidon will be doing in your workshop space counts for your interactivity and not theirs.
Okay.
Just FYI. So it's something that you should list in your questionnaire.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Thanks.
Captain Ron?
When you evaluate a camp's application, do you look at their website?
If they provide it.
If it's provided. Yeah.
Depends on the placer.
Depends on the placer, but.
And depends on the
I
timing.
do.
It depends on the timing. You
Okay.
put your questionnaire in the last week, I'm probably not looking at your website. Put your questionnaire in now, I probably am. Like, I'm one of those people that, like, when it gets to the rubber meets the road, that's one of the things that, if you want us to see it, put it in your questionnaire to guarantee that we actually see what you're talking about.
How much do you take into account beyond, you know, their application, their involvement as a community? Like, Captain Ron's been doing all kinds of things this time. Is there something that with building community there, or is it purely with the interactivity on site?
If their building community leads to some sort of thing that happens within their camp on Playa, then we take that into consideration.
Okay.
If you're a regional contact doing regional things and you have a camp on Playa, the only way it really translates is that we know this person's involved with Burning Man, and unlike, say, a new camp where we don't know these people, they might have a higher risk of maybe failing, we have more confidence in them being able to put on their camp. But we don't really, they don't, yeah.
I have a question about inter-camp relations. One of the things we've started doing is doing combined events with other camps. So you may have an art project out on the playa that doesn't get a lot of traffic. We're Vines Without Borders, we're a wine bar. We may go and take our wine out to you and put up a sign in our camp that says, hey, from 3 to 4, we're going to be out at XYZ. Come join us there. Is that my interactivity or is that theirs?
That's theirs.
That's theirs.
Good to know.
Yeah. We're
Yeah, all
trying,
these
we're
lines.
also, like, something that's come up with the whole community development thing is that we've realized that there's a little bit of a hole in the way that we look at things, because we're always looking at what's happening within your borders. But those experiences, like we said, that it are like drawing people out to other things, they're valuable. But we don't have a great way, because it basically is leaving a black hole in wherever your camp is, as opposed to something actually going on there. Yeah. So it's a valuable experience. We do want to hear about it, but it doesn't necessarily count towards your interactivity. But if I'm reading about you doing that as opposed to a camp that's doing similar stuff to what you're doing and then not doing that thing, I'm gonna say, well, I'd rather put that camp there than your camp that may not be open, but is actually still doing something interactive than the camp that's not. So don't not include it just because it doesn't count.
Yeah.
Do let us know.
I mean, maybe the answer is we do this thing, but we also leave a certain percentage of people back at our own bar and say, hey, we're here, but we've also got a big group out there.
Right.
Great.
That would be awesome.
That's
Yeah.
the answer.
That's
The
awesome.
other thing too with that is make sure that you know.
No, we love doing that. I mean,
Yeah.
we love doing that.
Do it, right? Don't concern yourself with whether it counts in your interactivity, especially if you're a good camp, if you're doing a bunch of other stuff. I know I have friends in a camp from 430, and they do camp takeovers all the time, where a whole bunch of them go and take over another camp just because they enjoy doing it. They do all their own interactivity stuff, and they're a great camp on their own without it, and it's something they enjoy to do. So, you know, do it if you love doing it. Just make sure that your camp is
still vibrant.
Vibrant.
I mean, we had a camp that we used to love. They're not a camp anymore. They're like a sub camp of somewhere else. But they used to do rogue build crews during build week.
Mm-hmm.
So they basically, you would go to bed for the night and they would roam around the playa and like build your dome. So you'd wake up and you're yes, they just show up at your camp and they would build your dome. So you wake up in your dome, and it's again not something that counts within their camp, but they told us about it. And we're like, that's fucking badass. I love that. Like, so I mean, it's stuff like that that like we do take into account. It just doesn't necessarily.
But you need to keep your camp vibrant, is what you're saying.
Right.
Okay.
Not just interactive.
Tell us, yes.
All right, we've got a bunch of hands that have been up, but let me hear from in the back. We haven't heard from you.
I just wanted to focus on the words you used, community and then interactivity. We were in a bicycle repair camp last year, and we're looking at some changes. But so much to do when you're repairing bicycles, and we were doing a lot of other things. Is there any way to request a bicycle repair camp be placed next to something?
Next to a piano bar.
A piano bar. You know, be placed next to a camp that would be able to, while the people are waiting, they might want to go over there and explore your camp. And
Yes.
I don't know how to even look.
There's in the questionnaire, there's a comment section. You can also put it in your interactivity description, but there's a comment section and say like we would love to be placed next to like a bar so people can wait, or something that they can do like
Shade,
yeah.
refreshment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A water bar.
Last year.
Yeah, just put it in your questionnaire. It's no guarantee, but we do our very best to accommodate things like that because I mean,
interactivity or community, what was the term you used? Community?
no, it just put it in the comment section and
Put-
just let us
just
know.
say, hey, we
It's
want to
your
be
cu-
near
It's a community involvement.
community involvement. Yeah, we want to be near something like a bar or a water station or a lemonade
Or
stand.
just say, yeah, in your
call it out, and we'll know what you mean. I mean, these are things that I think most of our team actually thinks about already with all of our camps, because our intent is that if you are wandering around the city, that you're stumbling into something that's refreshing, and then go to get a drink, and then go jump on a trampoline. You know, so we want that variety from camp to camp to camp. So the same thing applies to a bike repair. We want something that's fun and exciting right next door, so that interaction happens.
But-
They're frustrated.
Yeah. So what you can, obviously, because their bike broke. I've had that happen. It made me cry. It was horrible. So basically, put in your questionnaire and interactivity, you could put like, hey, it would be great to have something near us so that people have something to do while we repair their bike.
Right.
Like that's all it takes, and we're like, oh, right. If we're not doing it already, which we normally do try to do, but if we're not doing it already, it reminds us that it's something that we could think about while we're mapping.
Yeah, help us.
Help us help you.
We build a big community, right? But we do also build neighborhoods. So if you're neighborly and you have a neighborhood, help us. We really enjoy making those neighborhoods because there's always something to do, and it may not be the Esplanade where there's this in your face kind of stuff, but it's your neighborhood. Just put it on your questionnaire and say, we like being a neighbor. This would help us help you.
All right, look, Tiki?
Tiki Tom, Brock. I've never met you, Machine. I don't recall, so that must be a good thing.
So far, so good.
So I just wanted to say something last year I had a lot of problems with, and we do a lot of our transporting of our infrastructure on Monday of build week. There were huge delays at the gate. Now, if you mention this to gate, they get very defensive about it. Just maybe urge them to have more people on staff earlier, because we go in and out from
Totally different department.
multiple times, and to wait 3 hours each time to get through that gate on a Monday of build week seems excessive. It was major delays for us, and whether or not you can do anything about it, I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Yeah, well, OSS had a number of changes last year that they weren't ready for.
Okay.
So there's been a number of meetings with OSS and getting those people their resources in a timely manner.
It's important that we build on time for you guys.
All right,
It's for the city.
Right.
We've only got a few minutes left. I'm going to go hazardous, Boy Scout, and then D1, and that'll probably take us through.
When you are placing, does like the 2 o'clock placer and the 3 o'clock placer, do you coordinate to know what camps are going to be across from one another for like certain amenities for certain camps? So you're not going to have like 2 tire changing places next to each other, or 2 snow cone shacks next to each other?
We don't ever talk to each other.
Well,
I'm kidding.
You know, sometimes it would be easy.
We try to.
Yeah.
We try to.
We actually, that's why we do our mapping weekends. Everybody comes from wherever they live because we're not all Bay Area folk. And everybody comes from, we do it actually at HQ in person with everybody together, and that's a big reason why. So that when we get to that point, we can say like, I'm putting this camp here. This is like what I have here, and like this is what they do, so that we can try and. We're not like, it's not like 100%, but we do talk to each other and we do try, and we're getting better every year of coordinating that so that we're not having sound battles across an avenue, because we've had that happen before.
I just
which is
noticed
horrible.
we had it really good the last 2 times because we're placed in 3 o'clock, but we're been right there on the 2:30 all the time, which is perfect. And we always go, how is it so perfect that they get everybody on the 2 o'clock side so in line with our 3 o'clock side? But it makes sense. It's
yeah.
all are.
Yeah, we're all in the same
together.
room, so when we actually get to the point that we're putting those camps in, we are actually talking to each other, or like saying like, this is what I'm putting here, or like, hey, I'm putting a quiet camp here. Can you not put a sound camp across the street for them?
Right.
Or like, whatever.
Well, thank you all for communicating and adulting well for us. We appreciate it. Boy Scout.
Just the work access passes that you, I noticed that I think I recall you guys changing it so that I need 5 on Tuesday and 3 on Thursday and 1 on. Are those totals being reported to the gate so that they can know that we're getting a bubble here and that there?
That's part of the reason, so that they can adjust their staffing,
Right.
so that hopefully the lines are as manageable as possible.
Yeah, great.
So if you have laps for Wednesday, use them Wednesday. Don't use them on Friday.
Yeah.
Because then everybody's we're gonna have that same. Oh my God, why did I wait for 3 hours? Well, you 2 days late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for the new people, remember that if there's an issue and you can't make it till Friday, that Wednesday WAP works from Wednesday on.
It's
So
good
not
from
like
the
you
day.
can't get in.
Right.
But
But
try to use them on the days that they're allocated to.
again, placement act.
Okay. Do you want?
Work access.
When the questionnaire gets filled out, it goes in a few weeks, and that gets to you guys. And we're still refining parts of our design process, adding little things to our facade or whatnot to make it look better as we're in the building phase. Do you all want updates on, as if our plans, we add things to make things better? But do you want that pass appointed application, or do you want to keep that?
Yeah, questionnaire definitely. I mean, sorry, it's always questionnaire. That's a placer thing.
Sorry.
Because you're still a theme camp even if you don't get placed.
Sure.
So yes, in general, yes. I mean, we don't need to know that hey, I'm putting 1 extra light there.
Right.
But if you're making changes that are significant to your frontage or to your interactivity, one way or the other.
Population changes.
Population,
Yeah.
all that stuff. Yes, you can just email placement@burningman.org, and with your sector, first choice sector in the subject line, and then your camp name, and that will go to the placer of the sector, and they can update your questionnaire. If it's a major change, we may be you need to fill out a new questionnaire. But if it's minor stuff or just improvements or whatever, yes, please.
All right. Hazardous?
So last year we ended up on a corner, and we wanted to make the best of the corner so that we could have good frontages on both sides. So we put our main interactivity on the corner on an angle, but it wasn't on our map that way, obviously, because we thought we were going to have it different. How's the best way to say it? How do you we can't let you know once we're on Playa because we have that corner and then we make that change. So how do you guys like that kind of change? Because I mean, it ended up being from being in the center to completely really a different layout, but it worked better for the corners so that we can make the interactivity be at its best.
Contrary to popular belief, we do not print out all the maps, walk to every camp, go, that's wrong.
Okay. You're doing it wrong.
We don't have that.
Well, I'm wrong.
Yeah, there's only
I'm good at
18
that.
of us, and we do like to go to Burning Man after we finish placing. So we do like to visit camps as we can, and that kind of change is
So it's not like I got a point marked off.
It's like
asked it.
It's like
go by the book.
It's like exactly the opposite. It's like a no-brainer of this makes more sense for my camp so that I can get as much traffic. Even if we were going by the map thing, even if we had that kind of bandwidth, we would still be good for you.
And sending in your map for us, I mean, the side dimensions for machine, for flagging, it's very important. The map for us is to give us a reference of what you in general want to do. So that you may be wanting to do something and we're like, we have some issues with this, so we can have that conversation with you. Almost every single camp makes a change on Playa.
And it's also to see what's really important on your maps is big structures that cannot be you're building a 50 by 100 something that's one solid piece. we need to know that so that we don't change your dimensions so that you can no longer do that thing, or fire and stuff like that we need to know because of the safety rules.
Okay, Captain Ron?
Is there a percentage formula that you like to apply the amount of frontage or interactivity versus population? How much square footage do you, or percentage of the space that you assign?
Square footage, yes. Frontage, not as much. I mean,
use it all.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are lots of camps that might say, hey, we've got this one thing, we kind of want a 50-foot frontage and 100-foot depth, and then maybe there's other camps that say we've got 4 things and we're going to fill up all the frontage, so we want a 100-foot and then a 50-foot depth. So it just depends, but square footage, yes, is part of our calculation.
Yeah, and then take into account that we grid everything on 50 feet. So it's 50 feet, 50, 100, 150. So everything we do when we map it out is the smallest percent is 50 feet.
And I would say something that we expect your interactivity frontage or whatever to be whatever you're making. Like really, like you putting it on your map, it's like we're not looking at, oh, well that camp has like 55% and they have like 10, like we don't do that. But what we do appreciate is if you're only using 50 feet of your frontage for your interactivity, that you do something with the rest of your frontage, even if it's just stringing up lights or putting out, you have artists in your camp that you can throw some art pieces out on the street to just make it a little bit prettier so it's not like RV walls or cars, just so that it's more visually appealing. We really appreciate that, but we don't really expect you to, you know, you end up with a lot more frontage than you're expecting. We know you still have to live and you still have to like protect your people and all that. So that percentage thing is kind of not something that we really look at.
A good example was from yesterday in that presentation, the camp that had the butt banners on their backside, if anyone remembers that, right? They made these banners, they put it back there, so instead of just a bunch of cars and RVs, there was actually something visual to make it a little more pleasing. You know, we're not expecting you to create a whole new interactivity on the back. It's great if you do that, and it's awesome, we want to help you if you do, but just be aware of all the frontage you have and try to make it as beautiful and interactive for the people around.
And yeah, like even just like string lights at night, like nothing heavy, but just like string lights.
Yeah. You could never have too many lights.
Yeah.
In the maps we have both public space and then the tents and private abodes. How much of do you look at the private spaces in terms of when you're laying out stuff? Is it you know?
Well, I mean, it's one of the things that we look at first when we're reading a questionnaire. It's one of the very first things we do is we look at population, we look at what you're requesting, and then we look at the map. So we are looking at like, oh, this is how much interactive space, but I'm not going to be like, oh, that's, you know, unless you're doing something really weird where you're putting like, I don't know, something and like leaving this huge courtyard in the middle that you're like, that's empty space.
Yeah.
I mean, like
we have to fill it. We have to.
Right. I mean, that I'm going to look at, like, if you're doing some weird configuration, like you've got like 30 RVs and you've decided to give them all huge courtyards. Yeah, I'm going to say like, no, you don't need that much space. But if you're putting your tents and whatever, yeah, it's more about an efficient use of space as opposed to what you're putting there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And we look for red flags, as you mentioned, the RVs. Is this red flagging that someone's really building their own private space that's exclusive and no one can come in? That would lead us to a conversation with that camp to find out why are they doing this.
Yeah.
All right, you said more lights is always better. We've heard a lot about beautiful frontages. More lights is always better?
Even the simple ones, though. We're not talking about production lights. I mean, production lights are great. Don't get me wrong. But like even just taking a dark string of Christmas lights or rope lights or whatever, just to make it so it's not a dead space. So it's not black. There's a little bit of visual interest. I mean, you know, everybody. This is my one question I always ask burners. Like, how can you tell it's a burner? They get distracted by shiny things. It's the thing we all have in common. So throw something shiny up, and you know all of us are gonna be like, "Ooh, shiny!" Like.
And if you're in a camp that's big enough, like that you're going through from one side to the other, maybe you're 100 by 200, and it's like, hey, you have a backside, and we want it to be awesome. Yeah, there's a camp of that size usually has enough people that you can say, hey, the 3 people want to do something in the back. And they're like, oh my gosh, we can do whatever we want. These people will take that, they'll embrace it, and do something cool back there. Whether it's just a little painting, whether they want to set up their own little thing, put that out to your camp and see if somebody wants to own that themselves. Because oftentimes there's someone that will do that.
So we are all ravens, is what we're hearing. Show us some shiny shit, some blingy things, and we will.
Please don't haul it home. That's my shiny shit.
All right, we've got just a couple minutes. We've got a bunch of new camps. We have old camps. We have small. We have large. Is there anybody that doesn't feel like they've been hurt? Wow. All right.
Hasn't been. Oh, heard. Well, our space was a little crooked last year.
One of the things that I saw come up on the Facebook forum, and thank you, Ron, for giving us all a place to put this out there, was people were worried that they show up and their space is different than they anticipated, and they're rearranging on the fly. That wasn't something we totally had happen. It's always a little bit different because of our own, what we thought. But how do you address that? Is there anything we should be looking at?
That particular case, it took all my effort to not respond to.
Yeah.
Because basically the person who showed up didn't listen to us, and they had the exact space that they asked for. It just was like flipped. And he took the information wrong. In general, we do our best. This is why maps with big things are important, so that we can make sure that things will fit in your camp. But in general, you might be flipped, you might be sideways. We play Tetris. We're trying to fit. Remember, we have 1,400 questionnaires. If we could say yes to every single camp and nobody got that letter, that would be awesome. It'd just be awesome if that's what nobody got that stress of you're not placed. Yeah. That would be awesome. But that means that sometimes we need to make, instead of you being straight this way, maybe we flip you sideways or something like that. Ask us questions. We're happy to help as much as possible. But just remember, if you're a square, we're not giving you, if your camp is going to be square, we're not going to give you a map like you're square. If you're in one of the weird spaces and we know we've given you an odd shaped space, if you get that plus or minus at the back of your dimensions, email us and we can get you a copy of we can get you a thing of your map so you actually can see the whatever the weird shape is so you can plan for it. It won't necessarily tell you what side of the street you're on, but it will give you the outline so you can actually map your camp into that space. If you get back you're a square, you're only going to get that if you get the plus or minus at the back, though.
Also remember, things are approximate, right?
Yeah.
Camps are you said 100, but I got 95. It's approximate. Don't measure to, exact. Come prepared, too. You might be flipped if you're on a corner. There's 4 corners you can be on. If you say, I know there's 4 corners, I'm prepared for any one, when you show up, it's not going to matter which one you're on. So just make sure that you are aware of these things and what the scenarios might be and prepare for those.
And when I say you're square, remember the city is not square. It's a circle, which means you're never going to get an exact.
Yeah. Well,
just a tip on that, because that has happened to us a bunch of times. Draw as many maps as you can before you get to the flyer. You have the address, you have the rough idea of what options there are. Just plan them all out, and then once you get there, you just pull out the one that you have to.
Yep.
Yeah, our problems have been in our preconceived notions in our camp. And so I guess our big takeaway there is always assume the best, that you are doing your best on it and that we can all be flexible with it. We're right at 1 o'clock, it looks like, so it's time for lunch. Thank you all. Thank you.